3 years the river has flowed. Same bank, same stone, same winding road. But the youth are calling with voices loud, breaking through the grey morning cloud. The land is tired, the people are strong, waiting, praying it won't be long. One man stepped from the halls of power to stand with us in this urgent hour. Tchiroma, oh Tchiroma, you carry.
Hello everyone, greetings from the JMA Connections. Today is Thursday, the 20th of November 2025. That soundtrack that you just got there opening this segment is by DJ Legal. DJ Legal is a Southern Cameroonian who is based in the United States of America, specifically in Minnesota. And DJ Legal is that gentleman who at the start, at the outbreak of the crisis in the southern Cameroons in 2017, in the state of Minnesota, in the United States of America, decided to go stand in snow. And he protested in snow all by himself. He was the one-man soldier for 3 good days to draw awareness to the genocide that was just unfolding in the southern Cameroons. So I honor you, brother. I want to thank you for your sacrifices for the people of the southern Cameroons. That said, I'm delighted to be here for some more updates on what is happening on the ground in the southern Cameroons and also in the Republic of Cameroon. But let's commence with this. You see, I have said here before, and I said it over and over, that it is also in the interest, that is really in the interest of the tyrant to make his subjects poor. The people are so occupied with their daily tasks that they have no time for plotting. This is by Aristotle. And so Aristotle puts that thought that I've always shared here in very serious context. It is also in the interest of the tyrant to make his subjects poor. The people are so occupied with their daily tasks that they have no time for plotting. Now, when you look at this, you begin to make some sense. You begin to get some meaning out of the attitude of the people of the Republic of Cameroon. Right now, as you're seeing, you find quite a good chunk of them on social media mocking the call made by the own president-elect, Issa Tchiroma Bakari, for a national day of mourning this Friday, that is tomorrow, the 21st of November, and of course, a lockdown. These are people that are expected to show to the world that they are dissatisfied with the situation they find themselves in. But because poverty is a public policy in Cameroon, and I've said that on this platform several times, it is a public policy. Normally, the business of government is to make sure the people have better living conditions. The business of government is also, and most especially, to fight poverty, to make sure that the people, get improved living standards, that the people, find every other day coming up better than the previous one. But for dictators, that is a no-no. For tyrants, that is a no-no. For tyrants, they have that firm conviction that the poorer their people, the greater the possibility that they will be able to control them, that they will be able to cause them to do just the kind of things that they want them to do. And so therefore, I had said that in Cameroon, one of the public policies, the most enforced, that's the policy most enforced by the Biya system for at least 43 years today, has been the policy of poverty. That is why of poverty. That's why you notice that there has been a marked reversal from all the economic gains made by the Ahidjo regime from the time Paul Biya took over power in 1982. From the time Paul Biya took over power in 1982, it has been a crushing, a crumbling, and everything. Just as it was doing that for the country at large, that is exactly what, upon that nonsense thing that they called, the joining of the two Cameroons, upon us getting together with the Republic of Cameroon into some albatross of a union called federation of two states equal in status, what Cameroon decided to do first was to make sure they impoverish the people of the southern Cameroons to levels never before known, never before seen. That is why they folded up a lot of the companies in the area and made sure they defunded our police force and nationalized the Southern Cameroon's police force. The intention had always been clear, because if we are very poor, we will never have the means to finance an insurrection. This is very important. We will never have the means to finance an insurrection. That is why you notice that the Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia Liberation Struggle, has had as principal financiers people in the diaspora who all were running away from worsening conditions at home to look for greener pastures in the diaspora, and ended up becoming the driving force of what we have today as a liberation movement on the ground. But by and large, the Republic of Cameroon made sure that they shut down our businesses. They impoverished our strong business persons. You know what they did to the Kilos, what they did to the Nangas, what they did to all of those people. What they did was simply they decided to end the currency that was being used in the southern Cameroon, which was the shilling. And when they put an end to the use of the shilling, they decided to impose terms for conversion that were such that people went from grace in the morning to grass in the evening. And so this is something that our people need to bear in mind very strongly. So we're dealing here with a system that does not care about people, that does not care about the growth, about the prosperity of its citizenry. We're dealing here with a system that is mostly concerned with how to keep itself in power and how to keep the people under total subjugation. This is something that you should absolutely bear in mind. And so therefore, my people, this takes me into the subject matter of this news flash. You look at here. In the past few days, we have seen messages flying all over the place, indicating that some reverend sisters and some reverend fathers were kidnapped, and that these reverend sisters and the reverend fathers were kidnapped, by by gunmen somewhere in Ndop, that is in Gokotunja County of the southern Cameroons. And so, although they have not been able to identify the specific group that did the kidnapping, they, however, contended that these reverend fathers and these reverend sisters, should have been kidnapped by the freedom fighters of Amazonia. Listen, folks, they commonly call them, they always refer to them as the Amber Boys. And so I tried to understand why these freedom fighters would decide to go after priests and reverend sisters. The message that came said about 6 priests and a lay faithful have been kidnapped in Dop. They have already spent 2 nights in captivity. It's a developing story. And another one that came said there were some 2 reverend sisters who were kidnapped as well. Although I did not get so much information about that. And while I was still looking at this and asking myself questions, but
Trump has mentioned in the estimated
why should this kind of thing really happen to why should this kind of thing happen to our people? Who should decide to go after priests? Who should decide to go after reverend fathers at this time? Because we've had a lot of sensitization on this kind of situations regarding the treatment of the civil society, the treatment of church leaders in the southern Cameroons. And so while I was still looking at it, someone said, someone sent me this post by Nzuimanto, which said plusieurs prêtres, 6 selon des sources, de l'archidiocèse de Bamène a kidnappé par des Ambazoniens dans le département du Ngokotunja. And you see the intriguing and interesting thing with this post. He actually puts Ambazonian in inverted commas. The fact that Nzuimanto is an activist, a citizen of La République du Cameroon, But you see, he put ambazonier in inverted commas. This tells you a thing. This tells you that Nzuimanto is not convinced that those who kidnapped, I use the word kidnap because that is what it is, that those who kidnapped these priests, these prelates, are actually, the self-defense or freedom fighters of the southern Cameroons. And the reason for that doubt is simple, because we have spoken a lot about the existence of some forces in the southern Cameroons, sponsored by members of the CPDM crime syndicate, whose role is simply to turn the ire, to turn the fire on the civil society, to turn the fire on the church, to turn the fire on some particular people in the community, so that in turn it should provoke an uproar and cause the population to now focus and try to fight against the same people who are fighting to give them freedom, to cause the population to turn against their own wishes and aspirations for freedom. This is something that has been ongoing. So when I saw this, I said, oh, wait a minute. There is something about this whole incident. And then I said, let me take some time and listen to the audio messages that came along with it. Hear them.
Saint Michael's Parish, victory with the blood of Jesus. Saint Michael's Parish, victory with the word of God. Saint Michael's Parish, victory with the Blessed Virgin made knocked and kept there. Father, to sparge, make us be together for us. My dear friends, dear people of God, 5 of us left this morning for Baba to see Reverend Father Harris. On reaching there, we picked our shock. The Christians came this morning for daily mass and were stranded in the church without Father William Shakespeare to celebrate morning mass with them today. We were shocked that yesterday, Father Harris, the parish priest of Baba, Reverend Father Michael Moa, our dean from Dove.
In fact, I don't want to put you through all this pain of having to listen to all of those names all the way to the end. But one thing that I want us to take note is that we are talking here about Ngokutunja. This is in Dove. You will notice that slightly over a week ago, there was an incident in Sabga. Sabga is part of Sabga is in Mezam. I should say Sabga is in Mezam because it simply ends in Bamesing when you are going towards Ndor. Bamesing is the first village in Ngokutunja. And so in Sabga, an incident occurred where some gunmen showed up there at the mosque and opened fire on the people who were praying. In the end, 3 people were killed. 3 people, mostly Fulanis, were killed. And as soon as that was done, I read on a social media post by Mimi Mefo Info that this act was carried out by the same Amber Boys that she referred to. But there was a twist, because hours later, the same group that she accused came up and denied the claims. I had played on this platform the audio of General the Only Bro. The Only Bro made clear he did not know what had happened in Sabga. He had no idea who had done whatever happened in Sabga. They were nowhere close to Sabga. And he also explained clearly that they have had excellent relationships with the Fulani people that they have never had any form of conflict with. And so they have lived very closely as, good neighbors, brothers and sisters, and all of that. And he said that whoever carried out that act must have done so with the intention of creating tension between themselves and the Fulani people. And then I asked the question, who then are these gunmen? While I was asking this question, someone connected me to one of the indigenes of Sabga, who said he was present at the scene when the incident happened. And he said that the people who carried out the heinous act in Sabga were, to all intents, dressed, operating, and doing everything like Amber Boys, and that they were known. And he said these guys were a mixed, they were mixed. Some were from Oku, others were from Nso, and then he said yet others were from Boyo. And he said that in Sabga, they recognized those faces. Why did they recognize those faces? Because they had seen them on screens before, and they had started tracing their tracks. And because of some kind of approaches that they use, I don't want to say I believe in the cosmic approaches that they said they use, they have already tracked down and killed 2 of the 6 boys who arrived in Sabga and carried out that act. And he said, I even got the pictures of the remains of these 2, but the images are so gruesome, I will not be allowed to present here on YouTube. And then he said, these boys, when they looked at them, they recognized them because they have appeared a lot of the times on the platform known as MKPD, My Country People Them. A clear indication that these are boys who had picked up arms before to fight for freedom in the southern Cameroons, but ended up deciding that they were tired, they did not want to fight again, they wanted to surrender their arms, and they wanted to go back to normal life. So what did they do? They went to the DDR centers created by Paul Biya. Now, when they got to the DDR center, what happened? At the DDR center, rather than training them in various trades to help them get ready for reintegration in the community, as it was the promise before they got in, they rather caused them to switch camps. So this time, they arm them back, send them out to the field, so they go out to the field, carry out such evil operations as kidnapping for ransom, as rampant killing of civilians, as creating panic in the neighborhoods. Of course, when the people see them, they will recognize that these are Amber Boys. And what effect does this have? To tarnish the reputation of our liberation movement, number 1. Number 2, to tell the international community that you don't have freedom fighters anymore, you only have common bandits who are wreaking havoc on the people. And then, of course, number 3, to turn the population against their own quest for freedom. This is exactly what they have been doing. And so if you were doubting, because I've just talked to you about what happened in Sabga, and now I'm talking about these priests that have been picked up, I'll come back to them. But before I do, let's go over to Ikiliwindi. Watch this footage, and I'll come back in just a second.
Population for Ikiliwindi, they don't vex. They say ex-amber, their excess is on too much for village. As the government don't give them guns, so they just do anyhow with people. They don't come beat some woman, the money time beat so they don't collapse. They don't know where to be the crime. So they say SDO must address the matter before they change their mind. I the message I they give for here. So now we bridges. They don't shit down over road. So no motor so no go past. See the talks until we enter their ears. So no motor no go pass for the Kumbaman road today. I clear in the village.
So you have heard that narrative. These are the people of Ikiliwindi. Ikiliwindi is in Meme County, in the southern zone. For those of you still calling the La République du Cameroun appellations, Ikiliwindi is in Meme Division in the southwest region. And now this is the local population out, and they are clear who they are after. They call them ex-amber. Ex-amber. That is, these are people who were fighting for freedom, but who at some point were convinced by the same members of the CPDM crime syndicate to drop their weapons, go to the DDR centers so that they will be trained, they will be given a trade, they will be provided capital, and they will be settled so that they return to normal lives. But when they got in, what happened? They decided to use them for Machiavellic purposes. And you hear the narrator tell you that the ex-ambers have been given guns and they have been torturing people in their communities. So these people came out heavily vexed because these guys beat a woman to near death. They almost lynched her. And so the population came out and said, enough is enough. But the good news here is the population is able to identify that these are ex-fighters, ex-freedom fighters, who had dropped their weapons and gone to the DDR center. But there, the government of La République du Cameroun, the colonial administration, rather caused them not to stop fighting, but to switch sides, and now to come out to the field to pose, to impersonate as if they were our freedom fighters, so that they could wreak havoc on the population. This is something that has been going on for quite a while. But the good news is more and more our people are alert, and they are beginning to speak out. They are beginning to identify who the culprits are. They are beginning to show them to the face of the world. Now, let's come back to these Reverend Fathers in Gokotunja. Why were these Reverend Fathers captured? Why were they arrested? And by whom? I have said here a lot of the time that as the leader of a civil society organization, we have a lot of foot soldiers on the ground in the southern Cameroons, whose role is actually building bridges between the local community and those who are carrying weapons, those who are fighting for freedom with arms, those who are fighting against the marauding, invading, and genocidal forces of the Republic of Cameroon in our land. And so their duty often is to meet these people wherever they are, have conversations with them, and try to encourage them to respect civilian lives, to respect the right of the civilians to move freely about and carry out their activities, to protect farm routes so that those who are going to the farms will not be afraid of anything, to ensure that they are assisting the local people to carry out their activities without any fear of intimidation, fear of torture, or fear of harassment. And so therefore, I caused a lot of these foot soldiers to launch a manhunt inside Ngokotunja to find out which group is holding these Reverend Fathers. And so I got another text message that came from the same person that sent this one, say, I learned that the boys are asking for the bishop in exchange of the 6 priests. The boys are asking for the bishop in exchange of the 6 priests. And the question comes, why are they asking for the bishop? Why do they want the bishop? And then they say the boys are referring to the Catholic Church now as a CPDM wing. That is a story for another day, because this part of it is a distraction. But the real truth is, this act comes after the recent visit of the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon, to Bamenda, where he went to rededicate, to participate in the ceremony to rededicate the St. Joseph's Cathedral in Bamenda, in Mankon Bamenda. And during that ceremony, something happened. Something happened that embarrassed the CPDM election bandits. Something happened that embarrassed Paul Atanganji to the core. Something happened that caused the CPDM election bandits who were in church to feel thoroughly humiliated. And so they were always going to find a way to punish these Reverend Fathers, punish these Reverend Sisters, punish these deacons, and all of those who gave them such a public embarrassment. Take a look at this video.
Your Excellency, Your Grace Andrew Nikkei, Archbishop of Amenda, President of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon. Excellencies, dear brother bishops, the Episcopacy, His Excellency Mr. Francis Faye Yongo, National Coordinator of the CNDDR, representative of the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya. I am the Apostolic Nuncio.
So you could hear at the mention of Paul Biya, represented by Faye Yengo Francis. Faye Yengo Francis is the one who is in charge of the DDR. Faye Yengo Francis is the director or the coordinator of the DDR centers. He is the coordinator of the DDR centers. And so, at the mention of his name, as a personal representative of Paul Biya, you heard the murmuring, you heard the booing, you heard the public disavowal that these people gave right in church there. So, the system was always going to find a way to even out. The system was always going to find a way to punish them. The system was always going to find a way to hatch out something. And little surprise that just days afterwards, it's not up to 4 days afterwards, after this incident, you hear that 6 priests were captured in Dub. But right up to this moment, you have not heard any of the Ambazonia or Southern Cameroon self-defense groups take responsibility. Usually, if they do something like this, they take responsibility. None of them have taken responsibility. Because for a long time, they have done everything to weed out from their midst those bad seeds that spend time creating this kind of problems. This is something that I've been grappling with. And trust me, folks, we will continue to expose these things to the face of the world, that all may know exactly the origins of some of this kind of heinous acts. You haven't forgotten the killing of the U.S. missionary in Bambui, Charles Wesco. Those who were hired to carry out that murder just so they could cause the United States of America to declare Ambazonia a terrorist organization were also caused to dress like Southern Cameroon's freedom fighters, were also caused to use local weapons, because at the time the weapons used most were then guns, local weapons, with gunpowder and some of those things. That's what they used, because they felt that that would fool the US government to think that that act was carried by Southern Cameroonians. It did not fly then. It does not fly now. But we will continue to expose all of this. And that's why I said, take a look at how Nzuimanto described it here. Because you see, Nzuimanto puts Ambazonia in inverted commas. That tells you that even they, the citizens of the Republic of Cameroon, who in the past blindly believed in all of this nonsense, now know that the My Country People, their platform, the DDR itself, Paul Atanganji, and about all those CPDM election bandits run their own gang of boys that they used to pose once in a while or every now and then as amber boys to wreak havoc on the people. So this is food for thought. We need to bear this in mind. I'll be right back somewhere in the course of the day as we continue to monitor the situation in the Republic of Cameroon, where the president-elect of that country, Issa Tchiroma Bakari, has called for a national lockdown this Friday, the 21st of November, and of course, a day of mourning for all those who have already been killed within the framework of protests against or protests marking the dissatisfaction that the people have with the decision of the Constitutional Council naming Paul Biya winner of the October 12th presidential election. Until then, keep pace with us on this platform. If you are already subscribed to this platform, awesome, make sure you personalize. But if not, go right ahead and subscribe and personalize so that anytime something drops here, you'll be the first to know. And make sure also that you share the link to this communication as much as possible. Thank you very much for your very kind attention.
A dream, a beacon shining where hope has been. From the mountains to the shore, we raise our prayer that change will come and justice be fair.
Tchiroma, oh Tchiroma, light the way home for every child of Cameroon.
In every village, every crowded street, hearts are pounding with history's beat. The hands that built this nation cry for schools that teach for truth, not lies, for bread on tables, for work and pride, for leaders who will walk beside, not above us, not beyond our reach, but one who practices what they preach. Tchiroma, oh Tchiroma, you carry our dream, a beacon shining